Welcome, everybody. We want to get you excited for our webinar today, where we're talking about connected for success. And I think that's actually really key. So much of what we offer as part of the Lightspeed solution platform is ways that you can integrate your core DMS with so many other features and functions. And I think you're going to learn a ton today about the ways that can create efficiencies within your dealership. So we'll jump into the housekeeping stuff. I know many of you have joined us before. Just a reminder, anytime throughout the webinar today, there's a Q&A at the bottom of the screen. Type in your questions as we go. We'll answer those as we can, and then we'll also save some time at the end for a Q&A session to address those even in more detail. And it's a great webinar today. We've got our presenter, Brian Tierney, and I'm also excited that we've got our OEM team here at the panelists of Jeremy Johnson, Danny Orden, and Robert Grant. So you're going to see them address some of the areas in the presentation, and they're also going to help us with the Q&A. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Diana. Thanks for the introduction. And thank you, folks, for joining us again for another Wednesday webinar. My name is Brian Tierney. I'm a sales engineer here with Lightspeed, and I come to you with a little over 30 years Lightspeed experience, 16 years working in a dealership, and about 15 years working with the Lightspeed organization in various capacities, such as webinars like this one. Once again, thanks for joining me today. I'd like to introduce some of my fellow presenters and panelists today, some gentlemen that have been with the Lightspeed organization for some time now, working in business development and OEM, Mr. Jeremy Johnson, Danny Orndane, and Robert Grant. Gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Thanks, Brian. So Jeremy Johnson, I'm going on just about 4 years at Lightspeed. I have about 25 years in the recreational industry, and my primary focus is working with the OEMs and manufacturers in the RV and the trailer industries.
Yeah, and Danny Orndine, been with Lightspeed only about a year, but have been a lifelong motorsport and power sport enthusiast. Currently am managing our OEM business development solutions for power sports and golf car. Rob?
Yeah, and Robert Grant, I've been here with Lightspeed for 25 plus years at this point, and prior to that, worked in the retail environment in a couple of local dealerships here in the Salt Lake City area. And so really enjoy the industry, and my core focus is on the OEM business development in the marine space at this point. Back to you, Brian.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the introductions, gentlemen. And well, let's get started with the webinar. And we're going to talk about all of the integrations, partnerships from third-party companies and OEM companies that feed into the Lightspeed experience. And I found this quote online, and I thought this to be relatively poignant for today's discussion, discussing the fact that Lightspeed, if we think about it as a tool, it's a single drop. But once we start bringing in our partners, our OEM and third-party integrations in the system, it takes that drop and creates an ocean out of your DMS. Sounds a little corny. Thought it was kind of clever, but that's kind of our mission statement for today's meeting, is all of the partnerships and integrations not only create a better experience for you as the Lightspeed user, but also create a better experience for the consumer that's buying the boats, the RVs, and motorcycles from you. And that's really our primary focus for today. So with that, let's talk about the agenda. What are the things we're going to cover in today's meeting? Well, we're going to talk about the current integrated capabilities that exist inside Lightspeed, like texting, marketing, tech video features. We're going to talk about some of those to begin with. Then we're going to put a little bit of flesh on the bones as to what an OEM partnership and a third-party partnership and integration look like. We'll give a little bit of a definition as to what that means, and also provide some examples of who those companies are and why those are meaningful for us as an organization, but also for you as the Lightspeed users. And then what's the bottom line? What's the price of all of these things? Well, I think you're going to be surprised to find out that most of the things we're going to speak to, in fact, the vast majority, the price is zero. So why not use them? And this is a great opportunity for you to learn about things that you may not have known about in the system and bring some of those things to light. Of course, we're going to take some final remarks at the end and show you some ways that you can connect with Lightspeed. Now, because of our time constraints, we've only got a limited time to talk about all the great things that come with OEM and third-party integrations and all the tools that exist inside of Lightspeed. So I'm going to offer some references to where you can find more information about those partnerships. A webinar that we did a couple of months ago, we'll show you how you can find those online, how you can use them. And of course, we'll take some questions throughout the presentation and some at the end. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. First, I'd like to introduce some of the integrated capabilities that are built into Lightspeed, some of which do have a price tag attached to them, some don't. But I want to speak to these as capabilities that exist. Yes, they use some third-party companies to integrate with the program, but they're ways that you can enhance your user experience in the dealership for the person that's touching the keyboard using Lightspeed, but ultimately enhance the experience of the consumer that's buying the boats, the RVs, and the motorcycles from your store. And I'm about to show you how you can employ some of those throughout your experience in Lightspeed. So let's jump into the Lightspeed experience together. I'm going to pull that up on the screen now. And you probably are familiar with this, our login screen for the program. I'm going to start a little bit of a journey for some of those integrations in service, where a lot of those already exist. So we're going to kind of keep things in one area of the system just to streamline our discussion for today. And I'm going to pick on Mr. Jeff Emig and a repair order that's in the service department at the moment. And I'm going to start by talking about our e-signature function, one of these integrations that's built into the program that allows you to capture a digital signature as you're checking in the customer either from the desktop or from the mobile application. And if we've got the repair order built, and part of my protocol when I'm checking in as a customer through the service department is I need to get a signature, an authorization to work signature. Maybe it's an authorization to special order parts, whatever that requirement is. I can print a copy of that document to a PDF. So I pull up a preview on my screen. I can then press the e-signature button on this digital experience here, creating a PDF copy of the document. I can then send it to the customer's cell phone or pull it up on an iPad or a tablet and let the customer review that document in a digital space. And once they've signed the signature line at the bottom, that signature document gets captured on the e-signature tab within the repair order. Now, I can do that from the desktop, send that document to the customer via text or email, or just pull it up on an iPad or tablet if I'm standing at the service desk. But why not use your mobile application to do the very same thing? I can press the repair orders button on my mobile application, access one of the existing repair orders, or create a brand new one. What's kind of cool about creating a brand new repair order with the mobile application is I can turn my phone into a barcode scanner and scan a driver's license, and it's going to pull the name and information of the customer into the repair order I'm building on my phone. And the best part about that too, especially in my case, is it spells their name right, which I'm inclined not to do. So I kind of like it for that reason. Add a vehicle to the repair order. Let's get to the bottom line. We take a few photos of the bike as we're checking it in, the RV, the boat, whatever it is we're checking in. But here's where that e-signature document lives, in the mobile piece. Press the new button, send a copy of that summary to the customer for their review. They accept terms and conditions because it is a legal binding document by them signing it. Review the document, click the sign button, sign with their finger, and they can download a copy right to their device. And that signed document, just like we saw on the desktop a moment ago, lands on the e-signature page of the repair order, so it's stored there forever as part of your backup. Well, let's get to the next piece. And if I'm standing in the parking lot checking the customer in, or maybe I'm just in front of the service desk, maybe now is my opportunity to send a customer a text message or an email with a link where the customer can provide a deposit. Maybe that's part of my protocol too, to protect me as a business, to make sure the customer is invested in the repair. Now, I can do this from the desktop or from the mobile application, but if I send a text message in either environment, I have an opportunity to utilize a pre-built template that's already in the text, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel there either. Lightspeed's going to attach a PDF copy of the document. I'm going to press my click to pay button, which is going to insert a link to my text message. And when I send that to the customer clicks that link, they enter credit card information, and I can collect a deposit up front. All of those can be done from the desktop or from the mobile, which I think is pretty cool. Now, the next little element, as we go through our service experience together and talk about some of those integrations and features in layered applications, let's talk about tech video. So I'm going to pull up that mobile experience again, and the technician might press the tech button on their cell phone. They then access the job, and they go into their tech video or tech photos section of the job, and they start taking pictures of what they're working on to document the condition of the vehicle. Maybe the customer dropped the vehicle off for an oil change, but while we were doing the oil change, we noticed the brake pads are worn out, the tires were a little worn out, chain and sprockets are a little worn out. So maybe I shoot some pictures with the mobile application. And by the way, those pictures that I take with the mobile app are going to land as attachments back on the desktop side. To prove what I'm telling to the customer, I can attach those pictures to an outbound text or email to the consumer, and it gives me a better opportunity for that upsell. I'm a sucker for those kinds of things. Whenever the local shop sends me a picture of my bike or my truck that's being serviced and they point something out that's wrong, I buy it every time. I didn't say that, so don't quote me on that, but yeah, I guess I did say that. But let's get to the tech video piece. So the photos is one thing. Somebody told me once that a photo is worth 1,000 words. Maybe it's worth $1,000 in the service department. What would a video be worth? Maybe it's $1 million. I don't know. Let's pretend it is. So I record a video of me walking around the bike, the boat, the RV to point out the things that are wrong or right with it, because we also want to compliment the customer, right? We want to give them a good experience. Record that video. It lands as an attachment back on the desktop side of the repair order. Now I'm going to turn on some video functions here in Zoom. Zoom's a little finicky when it comes to audio and video, so bear with me while I turn those on. So imagine I then get that video attached to the attachments tab inside the job. I send a text or an email to the customer. The customer opens up their phone, they read the text message, and in that text message is a link. They're going to click on that link, and they're going to see a video that looks a little bit like this. Hello, Brian with Lightspeed Power Sports, the technician that's performing your video visual inspection of your motorcycle. I'm also the gentleman that's working on your bike. Went through and did a little bit of visual inspection of the brake pads. We did check chain and sprockets. Chain and sprockets look great, by the way. Now your brake pads on the back look fine. Now let's talk about brake pads on the front. We did a visual inspection of brake pads on the front. Front's a little worn, and both sides, both calipers probably need a little bit of a replacement of brake pads. Went ahead and priced those for you. You're looking at $89.95 per caliper. Now we're going to install those at about $120 for the labor. There's going to be some shop supply, so roughly that for the replacement of the brake pads. Now we did look through your electrical component system. You were complaining about some starting issues. Bike was snap, crackling, and popping when it was running. We found a little bit of water in the fuse box that was contributing to that problem. Went ahead and cleaned out the fuse box, dried everything out. Bike's running great. Now one other thing we did notice when we pulled the fairings is you've got a little bit of a scrape on the exhaust shield. Went ahead and priced one of those for you. You're looking at about $185 for the OEM replacement, and if you'd like a carbon fiber accessory replacement, you're looking $285. That's a great opportunity to replace it now while we've got things torn down. But as always, if you have any questions or need some help, let me know. Brian with Lightspeed Power Sports. Perfect. I hope that was able to kind of present a way that you can communicate to customers, give them a little bit better experience than just the photos or the phone call. What I've found and what we've found collectively as an organization is dealerships that have started to employ service video in their service department. Now, this depends on the industry. We serve a lot of different industries here at Lightspeed. We're seeing anywhere between an 8% to a 15% increase in revenue simply by using service or tech video as part of your service protocol. So it's a great way to get more buy-in, more trust, a better relationship with your customers, but at the end of the day, it's also going to earn you some more money. So powerful element there. Now, I'm going to introduce a little bit of subject matter here in the sublet portion of the job. Let's imagine that we start interacting with a local paint store that's going to do some pinstriping on the gas tank of that motorcycle that we're working with. And so I click Add Sublet. Maybe it's ABC Body and Paint that's doing the work. They are going to charge us, let's say there we are. There's our vendor. They're going to charge us $250. That's our cost for that pinstriping, but we're going to turn around and charge our consumer maybe $350, allowing us to make $100 on that sublet job. So this is going to come up a little bit later as we start talking about payables, but once I've saved this, it generates a payable that's going to show up on the accounting side of the business, and I'm going to show how we can send an electronic payment directly to the vendor using a solution called ePay. So we're going to put a pin in this for now. We'll come back to this in just a moment. But the next thing I do want to introduce to folks that may or may not know that we have a phone system. We talked about the mobile phone. This is a little bit different phone experience. We do have a phone system, a voice over IP system built into Lightspeed, and it goes a little further than just being a phone. Let's imagine you're utilizing our ePhone solution. Customer calls your dealership, and as soon as they call the dealership, a little pop-up is going to show up at the bottom of the screen, and it's going to include the customer's name on that pop-up if they're a customer that's done business with you. Mr. Cade Humphreys might be the customer that's calling, and as soon as I click his name, before I even answer the phone, Lightspeed takes me right to his customer page where I can see potentially what he's calling about. I see Cade's got some open special orders. And before I ever pick up the phone, I already know Cade's probably calling about a special order. I can see on the screen that the order he's calling about is in. I answer the phone. Hey, Cade, how you doing? Well, how'd you know it was me? We're using a Lightspeed ePhone. That's how I know. And matter of fact, I see you're probably calling about your special order. Well, yes, I am. Cade, your special order's here. Come on in and see us. We're doing some free hot dogs on Saturday, by the way. I'd love to see you then. So it's a great way to provide an exceptional experience for your customer. If you're looking for a phone system and want to go a little further than that, the phone system is integrated to create pop-ups in the system to take you to the customer interface. And also on the communications tab, you can turn on a recording. Record that conversation, and this might be beneficial for your CRM experience where it's recording inbound and outbound conversations between your salespeople and consumer. Not only does it record the audio portion of the conversation for review from the management perspective, but it also puts that conversation into a text format. Sometimes ain't nobody got time to listen to hours and hours of audio. They may just want to look at the summary in a text format. And for me, that's probably the way I'm going to look at it. Review all those conversations and make decisions about what's going on in your business and help provide a better experience to the consumer. Well, let's go back to that service experience for just a moment. And we'll talk about the repair order we were playing around in with Mr. Jeff Emig. And as I'm going through that repair order experience, we talked about adding the sublet to Mr. Jeff's repair order. But let's say maybe I want to see how many times have we serviced a particular brand of motorcycle, a particular brand of boats, particular brand of RVs. And maybe since we've been servicing that brand or that line of products so many times, we want to offer an incentive for those customers to come back for a future service. Well, let's go into service, and I'm going to go down to custom reports, open up repair orders. I'm just going to use a sample report we have open. We're going to look at Suzuki customers in particular. In fact, this particular report is looking at open repair orders, but it could just as well be looking at cashiered historical repair orders. I'll get to my point in just a moment. I run the report, and this is showing me all of my Suzuki customers, and I'm going to send this data to a marketing campaign. Why would I do that? Well, I want to target those folks, and going back to hot dogs this Saturday, I want to let them know we're doing the hot dogs on Saturday, but also invite them in for maybe a 10% off coupon, or let them know about a potential recall or a warranty condition that's related to that brand. I save that data as a marketing group, and I'm going to call it my Suzuki, if I can spell today, guys and gals, and I hit OK. And so it sends that campaign over to another page in the system. I'm just going to close the tabs for clarity. We're going to go to system, and I'm going to go into marketing right there. And what you'll find in your marketing groups, that data that we just saved by using that Suzuki report, of course, I spelled it wrong, but there's our report. Let's view who those customers are. Well, there's the people that qualify for my Suzuki guys and gals, and I'm going to send them a marketing campaign, a text message that contains information about the hot dogs on Saturday, and maybe a coupon for 10% off at the parts counter. So just another way to get a little more buy-in from the customers, provide them some news and information about what's going on in the business, kind of your white glove concierge communication, but also generate some more revenue in the process. Well, let's go back to the last element that I'm going to go through, and we'll get to the meat and potatoes of our conversation. What does OEM and third-party partnerships really mean, and who are those companies? But I'm going to take us full circle and talk about accounting for a moment. We're going to go to payables, and we're going to pay some invoices. And you may remember just a little while ago, we created a sublet bill on Mr. Jeff Emig's repair order where we were paying a body shop down the street to do some pinstriping on his motorcycle. Well, now we're going to pay that bill because we've saved that sublet bill for later. I select ABC Body and Paint, check the box for the vendor, and let's imagine this is the bill that company provided us for the pinstriping. Well, in the past, we've always been able to print checks, so I can click the Pay All Selected button, look at my check printer to see what check number's next in the tray, and at that point, print a check right there in my office. But let's get a little bit fancy. Let's step into the modern age, and instead of printing checks today, what I'm going to do is press my ePay button, and ePay is going to allow me to send a digital payment using a credit card on file, electronic funds transfer, ACH, a digital check. I didn't even know that such a thing existed till I saw this. Or if we want them to be in the business of printing our checks, ePay or Repay, which is the company behind that solution, will print a check, they'll put it in an envelope, they'll put a stamp on it and mail it for you. And that might provide a little bit more of a seamless experience for your payable clerks. So just some food for thought, things to consider. So with that, we went through quite a bit just off the bat here. Let's do a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of a clarification of what OEM and third-party integrations mean, and how do those get employed in the Lightspeed experience? But most importantly, how does the consumer benefit from using those? Gentlemen, would you like to offer some insights?
Sure, Brian, thanks. So integrations, I think it's a term that maybe a lot of people don't understand. I think the simplest definition of that is we want the Lightspeed system to talk to your OEM's portal or where you're doing business with. So we have a lot of back-end connections through APIs, different technical terms that are even above my head sometimes. We have a lot of smart developers. We work with a lot of smart developers at the different OEMs. So we kind of hit all facets of your business. So if it's selling units in the CRM or doing service work or parts, the simplest one is obviously having us manage your parts price book. So we currently author over 300 parts price books. So at that point, you don't have to worry about going and sourcing that, uploading it in through a custom one. We get it directly from the OEM. They will, if there's new parts, super session parts, obviously with tariffs, there was all kinds of pricing with that. VIN coding has been a very popular one, and I'm sure a lot of the people on here have used it. So we have a lot of connections with the OEMs. So you basically just put a VIN in. It's either adding maybe a unit to inventory or obviously in service, which Brian was hitting on, hit the little button, and then it pre-populates all the information on that. So our goal, myself, Rob, Danny, is we continue to work with OEMs in our respective industries to try to work on more integrations. I always put an asterisk on this, is some of these do take you out of your normal business processes, what you've done maybe for a decade or more. But what we're doing is going to create an easier way to do it in the long run. The data will be cleaner, and ultimately we don't want you guys having to rekey things more than once.
Excellent. Great insights.
And as we, look at some of those partner integrations as well, as Jeremy mentioned, we really are trying to streamline those connections that you have between, your retail environment and the manufacturer and how you interact. And so when we look at, some of those integrations and some of the vendors, you'll see a number of logos and companies there on the right-hand side. But really, we're trying to just streamline that. So when you think about the, expanded parts availability, knowing what's in the warehouse, how quick you can get things, with the various manufacturers. When you think about how you're managing that aspect of your business, as well as your service efficiencies, whether that's warranty claim integrations, being able to, you've already entered the information within your Lightspeed repair order, and being able to upload that directly into the manufacturer's dealer portal. So those are really some of the ways that we have worked with and continue to work with additional manufacturers and OEMs out there. And as you can see, there's so many more that we can go with as well, across all of the industries that we serve. There's, hundreds, that we are currently talking with and working with, and continue to push and encourage them, and would enlist your help as well from a dealer perspective to ask for these integrations. I think that is one of the biggest ways that can help us be able to provide these integrations for you and to streamline those processes. Looking ahead, what we've got, if you have questions about where these integrations lie with any particular OEM or manufacturer or even distributor or partner, industry partner, there's a couple of great resources that we've tried to provide to share that information out there with you. So Brian, if you wanted to go to the next slide, and then we'll also look at, where some of these are. So, again, this is a list of some of the manufacturers. This is not a comprehensive or an exhaustive list by any means, but that list continues to grow. And if you do have questions about, a specific manufacturer and what's available, Brian will do a quick intro here on our website. So this is a resource that hopefully you are aware of. And if not, this will be a great introduction for you.
Yeah, as Rob had mentioned, I'm now on lightspeeddms.com. I've clicked on the partners page of our website. You scroll down just a little bit, you can look by department. If you're looking for something parts related, service, or sales, if I'm looking for a particular industry, golf, marine, power sports, or if I'm looking for an integration like price books, lead management, loyalty. I can make those selections, and as I make those selections, it readjusts what shows up on the screen, and it provides a series of providers, OEM and third-party providers that allow for an integration to the Lightspeed experience. Again, enhancing the user experience in Lightspeed, but also enhancing the experience of your consumer with your business. So just some powerful elements that we wanted to share with you if you're curious about who of some of those third-party and OEM partners are.
And something I'll add on that as well is a lot of those manufacturers or those partners that we have put out, we actually have done specific landing pages for those. So if you were to do a search for, say, Brunswick or for Honda or for Yamaha or others, those are ones that you will be able to click on a link. So as Brian searches here, it'll bring up Brunswick. And then there is a partner details button down there in that lower right-hand side. And so what that partner details page allows you to do is it really spotlights the specific integrations as well as maybe promotional offers or other things that you might be able to take advantage of for your business. So again, some additional resources, hopefully that you're able to take advantage of and have some additional clarification as to, what integrations we do make available and have available with those specific OEMs.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Rob.
Yep.
Awesome. And with that, we might just introduce another subject, and maybe Danny, I'll let you kind of speak to, as we were going through these different integrations and partnerships, and whether it's an OEM or third-party company, maybe we'll skip right ahead to what's the bottom line? How much is this going to cost a dealership to use some of these things?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. And as you mentioned at the top of the hour, there is no cost to the dealership associated with the majority of the integrations that we built with these OEMs and partners. Both the partners, OEMs and Lightspeed, recognize that our mutual goal is to make your day-to-day operation as seamless and streamlined as possible. If you could do everything you need to do out of one screen, one desktop, a one-stop shop experience is exactly what we target to do. So many of what we initiate with these OEMs in terms of project endeavors, the human capital required to build it, we all recognize that this is going to be at a no cost to either party involved, so that we can bring a better experience to the dealership, who we both want to help grow and provide ultimately the easiest group to do business with. Outside of just some PDI sheets or forms, which we do have a price for bundles and parts price files, which are also packaged in a quote there. Everything else is readily available to use at your fingertips inside of Lightspeed. I will add one other area if you'd like to learn about the integrations themselves, the setup steps, procedures, if there's any additional effort required on the user's end. If you just go to the Get Help button in the top right corner of your Lightspeed desktop, it'll take you to the knowledge base. You can search for the OEM, the third party, and the documentation for that integration is available to you. With every new integration we release, that documentation will be available, and it'll also appear on the partners page in the website.
Right. Well, thanks for the reference to the Knowledge Center, Danny. That's great. That's good information. Well, perfect. Well, what we'd like to do next is just give a little bit of a demonstration of what some of the things that the OEM and business development team was just speaking about and how those benefit you as the Lightspeed user, but ultimately, how do those things benefit the consumer, the person that's coming into your dealership to buy all the toys that they're buying? So we'll go through just a brief overview of what those different features and functions are. We'll talk parts, we'll talk service, we'll talk sales. I'll even speak a little bit about accounting so that we cover a little bit of everything across the DMS today. I'm going to start in parts, and we'll kind of just roll through the different departments, and I'll speak to different elements of those. Should you have additional questions or comments, we do have the chat function at the bottom of the screen. Please enter questions in at the bottom. We'll take some questions at the end, but if we have additional time, we'll offer some insights into how you can reach us here at Lightspeed to get some more details about these things. But let's go ahead and jump back into Lightspeed here. I want to just offer some thoughts on price books. Now, this is one that we've been benefiting from as a Lightspeed organization for a very, very long time. Back in the Stone Ages, when I first started using Lightspeed in 1995, price books existed then. They weren't quite as thorough as they are today, but in parts, if we go down to the list screen, you have a menu called price books. And this is where all of your price books are going to live for all of the providers, third-party and OEM companies. Now, in many cases with price book data, what it includes is, again, part number, description, cost, retail, in many cases, supersession and UPC information. So a lot of data. We're updating some of those as much as once a day, every night. In fact, so the benefit there is updates in the middle of the night so that you don't have to worry about it. And we can't say that as much about some of our competitors. Some of them, you've got to do the manual update on your own. We handle all of that data updating for you. And as I mentioned, in many cases, every single day. And with that big T word that's floating around right now, having those updated costs and price values is going to prevent you from selling the part at the wrong price and potentially losing money as a result. But another integration that we have on the part side of the house that kind of dances a little bit with price books is our warehouse locator. And many of you probably have used this. I know I certainly had back in my days in the dealership, and I know a lot of dealerships love the part locator, and I certainly do too. It's one of my favorite elements of Lightspeed. But if you need to get a part, let's say in the case of this Dunlop tire, I don't have one in stock, but I need to get one quickly. And with everybody being able to order something from Amazon and get it delivered to their house tomorrow or from eBay or other sources online, in my mind, time is of the essence. And if you can confirm that you can get an item for a customer, whether they're in the service department or right there in front of you quickly, well, that's going to keep the money in your store instead of sending it off to Amazon. So in this case, that Dunlop tire, again, I don't have one, but I could special order the tire. And whether it's a technician saying, well, Tierney, how long is it going to take to get it? Or a customer in front of me, Tierney, how long is it going to take to get it? I can press the green dot on the bottom of the screen. Warehouse, dealer, and store locator is going to tell me, does the OEM or third-party company have it in stock? And more importantly, where? Gives me an idea of how long it's going to take. Now, me here in Utah, Wisconsin's a few days away, so I might not be able to get it here tomorrow, but I can definitely get it. But I also might find some dealerships in my city, state, or town that have it on their shelf, and maybe I could run across town and get it from them. Also, if I'm lucky enough to have more than one location, say an east side store and a west side store, well, my east side store doesn't have one, but the west side store has got one. I'll run over and grab it. I'll have it here in an hour for you, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. So it's a great way to answer the question of how long, and also just give you the peace of mind that you're not going to be waiting forever for a part. Now, with that said, we're going to go over to the ordering screen. Once we've created that special order part, now it's time to send it off to the vendor. I like to sometimes refer to this order screen as my wish list. This contains a bunch of parts that I need to order today or at some point in the future, and I may have manually added those things for stock because I'm out of oil filters or taillight lenses or whatever. But when I'm ready to place that order, any special order in service, over the parts counter, maybe it was a special order that was generated in sales, those also show up here, and I'm ready now to push them over to the vendor. Now, the beauty of another integration that we offer that coincides a little bit with price books and warehouse locator is a API, which is some alphabet soup language for communication. I'm going to preview the purchase order just to make sure maybe there's a note in there from Jeremy that says, don't order this till tomorrow, or maybe I need to be aware that there's a $300 minimum that I need to create before the freight is free. So there's a few things I might consider before I push my order over. But when I'm ready to push it, I hit the process button and I rub my hands together and I say that order's done. I don't have to do anything else. It makes it slick, makes it easy, but warning, if you accidentally hit that button, you better go cancel that order because you just placed an order. It's that easy. So that's going to save you a whole bunch of time. I think it's pretty awesome. So let's talk about some service integrations. We're going to go over to the service side of the business and go back into estimates and repair orders.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Sorry, just as you're doing that, I know we have had a couple of people online ask if there's maybe a way from a display perspective that we could zoom in a little bit more. Some of the screens are a little small for them. I don't know if there is, but
unfortunately, no. I would offer this. I've had that question before, Rob, and oftentimes what'll happen is when you launch your Zoom page, it doesn't expand the view of the Zoom screen fully on the monitor. What I've been telling folks is at the top bar of the Zoom screen, if you double click, it should expand the view fully to the full size of your screen. Hopefully that helps, but if that doesn't, well, gosh, maybe the next webinar we'll figure out a way to zoom in. Unless you know of a way, Rob, I'm not sure how to do it.
I'm not right off. So yeah, I was
Okay.
hoping you might have some tricks. So hopefully that allows somebody to at least go full screen on theirs.
Yeah, I've had a lot of folks during demonstrations say I can barely see it when they're looking at a little tiny screen in the upper left corner of their monitor. Once they expand it, then all of a sudden the lights come on in the room, right? So try that. Hopefully that helps. But let's pop into Linda Smith's repair order for just a moment, and we're going to talk about some bulletins, some warranties, some recalls that we're going to know about the moment that they're available from the manufacturer. And we're also going to talk about some VIN decoding functionality. So we're looking at a repair order on a Forest River RV, and Linda Smith's the customer. On the units tab is where the Forest River lives. And as I'm adding that unit to the system, first of all, I want to point out if I've got the VIN number, serial number, haul ID number, I can hit the download arrow, and Lightspeed's going to decode that VIN and tell me year, make, and model of that unit. And that's across departments or across industries, power sports, marine, RV. So consider that as you're bringing new vehicles into sales or into service. Put the VIN in, decode it, see what happens. But once we've decoded the VIN, should there be a recall, a service bulletin, a warranty that we need to be aware of, as soon as I enter that VIN, boom, my bulletins button starts flashing and says, hey, Tierney, look at me. So I press that bulletins button, and if there's a recall, a warranty, or any kind of service communication that I need to provide to my customer, could be a great revenue opportunity. If it's warranty, I can see what those bulletins are, and we can act on them too and generate some money and provide a better customer experience for our consumers. Sometimes I'll get the question of how often do you update those, Mr. Tierney? Those update every single night. So we've always got the latest and greatest information from our providers.
And Brian, real quick, I think we've got a question on the bar that is between the customer information and charge date. What does that bar entail on on the screen you're showing?
I'm not sure
Right there, the cursor's at this text box. Right there, that says 36-month contract app 1.
Oh, this bar. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. Okay, so you're curious about this. This is a great place to input some notes about the customer that other folks in the business need to know. Like, don't take a check from this guy, or this guy bought a service contract, or this guy doesn't like something. Something that we want to know about collectively as a company. I'm going to show you where this is input, but I would caution you. Now, this field's been around for a while, and back when I was in the dealership, some of us goofballs behind the parts counter might enter some information into that field that we probably wish the customer never saw. And I will preface to say it's never going to show up on a print copy anywhere. So just so you know, it's not going to show up by mistake. But we all know that customers have a tendency to want to look around the backside of the monitor, see what you're typing. What are you doing there, Brian, on your computer? And they'll look around the computer and they're going to see what's on your screen. So that's a caution. That's called your on-screen notification. And that's where we might put some information about the customer that collectively we need to know about so that we don't take a check from this guy, or this guy likes to be called Mr., or whatever context that applies to that customer. But don't put in there, this guy's a bozo, because chances are he's going to see that and you're going to get in trouble. So don't do that. But that's where that information's coming from. And then anytime you put that customer on a parts invoice, repair order, or a sales deal, it's going to pop up that information just to remind you about that customer. Yeah, great question. We don't talk about that very much, but yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, well, let's talk about inspection forms, PDI forms, forms that are provided by the manufacturer, or maybe forms that you've required or requested here from Lightspeed. Those are going to live in the forms button on the upper right side of the screen. Now, some of our OEM companies provide these forms. So I would encourage you to reach out to your account rep here at Lightspeed to ask about them if you're interested in them. But for example, we're going to pull up the Keystone Crossroads Dutchman PDI checklist, and I click OK. And as I do, back to that e-signature experience, or if I'm just simply printing it to a laser printer and getting the analog signature with a pen, we can get detail from the customer, and it gives you an opportunity to check in an RV, a boat, or motorcycle. As you're checking in that vehicle, you can check off the things that you've determined to be defective or that need attention. Customer signs off, dealer signs off, and it provides that additional experience in the check-in process and a better experience for the consumer that's working through your service department. Well, let's scoot over to sales. So I'm going to go over to the sales department. We're going to talk a little bit about VIN decoding in sales, and we've spoken to some degree about this already in service. We talked about being able to decode a VIN number. Well, this is true across modules, across departments across makes and brands. So if I go into, let's say, Kawasaki as a make, and I open up one of my motorcycles here, for example, if I do know the VIN number, whether it's in sales or service, I would encourage you to go ahead and plug that VIN number, that serial number, that hull ID number into the VIN field as you're checking in new major units and decode the VIN. And chances are very solid that we're going to be able to decode that VIN, save you some data entry time, save you the time of manually updating that information. Now with that, this is also going to be a function that exists when you're pulling in trades into a sales deal. It might reduce the keystrokes as you're adding a trade to a sales deal. But I'm going to scoot over and talk about lead integration next. And lead integration, whether you're using a website like DealerSpike or Facebook, or maybe you're using Cycle Trader or Yacht Trader, or using a variety of sources to communicate what's in your Lightspeed inventory out to the world. What I pulled up on the screen looks a little bit like Easter. I'll explain the colors in just a moment, but what we're looking at is our leads, quotes, and deals screen that's really the interface between our sales department and the consumer. But really what I wanted to highlight, if I go into Mr. Jeff Emick's deal, I know I pick on Jeff a lot, and some of you on the call may know who Jeff is. And if you do, cool, we're buddies. But in this context, Mr. Jeff was on my DealerSpike website last night asking about a motorcycle that we're selling. And so when he started asking about it digitally, I'm interested in that Husqvarna. Here's my phone number. Here's my email address. Tell me about it, Brian. Well, that inquiry drops into the screen that we're looking at now through what we call a lead source. And in this context, DealerSpike is the lead source. Well, you might be wondering, how many lead sources does Lightspeed have? Lots of them, hundreds of them, from OEM companies to third-party companies like Facebook and DealerSpike to maybe local classified companies. If you're interested in a lead source and you're not sure if we offer it, again, we'll provide some contact information to folks here at Lightspeed that might be able to answer that for you. Now, since we're on this screen, I'm going to point to a function at the very top of the Lightspeed screen called the 700 Credit Dashboard. And this is an integration that we offer with a company, well, 700 Credit, that allows you to do some reporting about your customer, allows you to do a red flag report, an OFAC report, compliance reporting, and just check really who this person is are they who they say they are, and give you a sense of who this customer is that you're dealing with. But in addition to the 700 Credit dashboard reporting tools that are integrated right into Lightspeed, we also have the ability to pull credit, do a credit inquiry with the customer. And not only pull the credit for the consumer, but also the co-buyer. I can also share that information with third-party companies like App1, Cuddle, DealerTrack, and Route1. And the concept there is Lightspeed's going to send through an API, back to that alphabet soup word or term for communication. Lightspeed's going to communicate customer information, unit information, F&I products like service contracts and gap policies to those companies so that you can create a better credit experience for the consumer. And it's feeding that information, saving the F&I person, the desking agent, the time of re-entering that information elsewhere. Pretty powerful stuff. Now, the last thing I'm just going to speak to, it'll take us full circle on some of these OEM and third-party integrations that we've spoken about, is a connection to ADP Payroll. Now, ADP was a corporate owner for Lightspeed many, many years ago. We still have a partnership with them that allows us to offer a free, yes, free payroll solution for those of you that are using Lightspeed accounting. And the way this works is you'll launch your payroll communicator, and whether you're collecting just simply time card reports, maybe you're using our commission report in sales, maybe you're using statistics reports in service, whatever reports you're utilizing to produce payroll-related information to ADP, you launch your payroll access, and it's going to open up your ADP support portal, which, gosh darn it, I thought I had that available. I don't, so I apologize, but nonetheless, it's going to launch the ADP portal. It allows you to manage garnishments, 401k plans, benefits packages, who gets a printed copy or a digital copy of a W-2, who gets a printed copy of a check, who gets a digital copy of a check delivered directly to their bank. And the best part about that ADP payroll solution is it's free. So something to consider should you have questions on that. I would encourage you to reach out to your account representative for those. So with that, we've talked about a lot. We've gone through a lot of information. We've provided a lot of examples of things that work inside of Lightspeed that relate to OEM and third-party companies. All of those things are designed to streamline your experience as a Lightspeed user. but most importantly, enhance the experience of the consumer who's doing business with you. We covered the integrations. We defined who those OEM and third-party companies are. We provided a little bit of sample. We talked about the price, and in many cases, as you saw, the price is zero. So that there's not a better price than that, right? So with that, just some other ways that you can connect with Lightspeed. We would encourage you to follow us on our LinkedIn page, our Facebook and Instagram pages. We also have a YouTube channel where we're posting new content on a routine basis on our website. And as I mentioned, we do have a webinar that we did a couple of months ago that's available on our website and on our YouTube page, that if you're interested in a little more context about some of the things we talked about today, if you go to our YouTube channel, go to videos, you're going to find just about 2 months ago, we did a video that goes into a little more detail about unlocking efficiencies, integrations 101. So I'd encourage you to check out that webinar on YouTube. It's also available on our website if you'd prefer to go there. Go to lightspeeddms.com, go to resources, go to webinars, where, by the way, you can sign up for upcoming webinars, cue the view on demand webinars, and you can look at our past recordings. And here you're also going to find a version of that Integrations 101 webinar if you want some more information. So with that, if there's any additional questions or thoughts that anybody has, we'd love to take them live with you now.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. And thank you, everybody on the OEM team. Excellent information. I think it's a bit overwhelming sometimes for a customer to understand all of the different ways we provide integrations and truly help them to make their system more efficient and streamlined, but they're worth digging into, they're worth understanding, because they definitely will improve your efficiencies. So, you know, ask more questions. I know there was a lot of Q&A coming in. I don't know if there's anything specifically like the OEM team's been answering those that you guys want to just maybe address to everybody who's on the webinar.
There were from a marine perspective, there were a few questions that came across in regards to HIN decoding. I know we've had that for years with VIN decoding for motorcycles and so forth, but we also do have that for boats. So there are a number of manufacturers. There's probably 20 to 30 plus at this point that we have available. And so if you do have questions, again, back to Brian's point earlier, if you go to our client portal, or maybe it was Danny, but if you go to our client portal, you can type in VIN or HIN decoding, and then that will pull up a list, or you'll be able to open up a list that has that complete list of manufacturers and OEMs that we have HIN decoding capabilities for. And along with that, there are some manufacturers that we do have on the marine side, as well as on the power sports side, that we have, and now RV also with Jeremy, but we do have recall and bulletin capabilities and integrations with those manufacturers also. So those are some great pieces that hopefully you are able to take advantage of.
Yeah, that's excellent, Rob. You know, one other thing too, just to kind of keep an eye on, like, you know, every month we do some releases, and that's typically when we've added some different OEMs, if they're price lists, some of the integrations that even Rob spoke to, like if we've added somebody new or changed those, you're going to see that detail in the release notes. So easy to access from within Lightspeed. There's a tile down in the lower left-hand corner that you can go to the release notes, or like we've already talked about, go to the help, and you can key in that word and you'll find that information as well. Yep, those are new releases. Thanks, Brian. Other Q&A that came in that you guys want to just kind of address?
Yeah, Danny can probably talk about, there's just a question from Chris about bringing in units on order from both Yamaha and Honda.
Yeah, so these were recently built. I think the Honda one's been in operation for quite a while, but the Yamaha experience, if you have units, and this is in regards to unit receiving integrations, if you have units on order with Yamaha, and this is Yamaha Motorsport, they will pass that order information into Lightspeed, and it will nest in your unit receiving screen, and it should be pre-populated after you make those orders, and they will be awaiting receipt when the units show up on your dock. All accounts payable information, vehicle information decoded from the VIN, so color, unit, model, displacement, is all pre-populated. You can receive units all at once or one by one just to sanity check what's being received. But this ultimately eliminates any double keying or rekeying efforts in your receiving screen. Honda's integration works a little bit different, but effectively does the same thing. The documentation for both is in the knowledge base for understanding. And we do have more OEMs in the pipeline that will operate almost identical. Some may have unique similarities if they're in different recreational industries, but more OEMs are seeing the value of this and bringing it into Lightspeed as well.
That's
I think
awesome.
one caveat to that is that the Honda does require consent in Lightspeed subscriptions. You have to make sure that you have the Honda consent on that. That actually gets you a ton of really cool Honda integrations under that. Kind of rolling into the next one, there was an anonymous one on here. I don't remember the mention of Facebook, but no, we don't have anything to do with Facebook or anything tied to paid campaigns. I would recommend working with maybe your website company, or if you're working with a third-party ad agency, that they would be able to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, going back even, sorry, not to digress, but going back to the unit receiving side of things, for those marine dealers that are on the call also, outside of, Yamaha and Honda on the power sports side, we also have that same integration available for Barletta dealers. We also have that available for all of the dealer circle brands that are integrated there as well. So if you have a boat brand that utilizes and leverages dealer circle for the dealer portal, that is something that is available for you. That integration just needs to be set up, and then you can start streamlining that entire unit receiving process, including the unit quoting process. So.
Yeah, if there's any Forest River RV dealers, that is currently going to be rolling out in the next couple weeks for them. And I think to caveat with Barletta and then with the RV brands is it's going to be a huge time saver because all the options are going to come over, which I think is one of the things that takes the longest when adding in a unit, because it could have 2, 3, a dozen different line items that you want to make sure that are on the unit. So those will all come over. So initial time studies, that's something that took, 6, 7, 10 minutes per unit is taking like under 1 minute right now to get into inventory with all information coming over directly from the manufacturer.
They're awesome. I think these are great. Well, I know we could probably answer questions all day because the integrations, there's just a lot to learn. So, we'd encourage you to take a look at the demo, share this with, other people at your business. But again, use the resources that are available, whether it's just in the Lightspeed technology where you can look up information, contact your rep, and we're happy to answer those questions. So thank you so much, Brian. Thanks, Jeremy, Rob, and Danny for presenting today. We really appreciate it. We hope to see all of you on one of our next webinars.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.